hi, everybody, and thank you for watching another episode of the Continence Chat podcast. I'm here today with my co-host, Susie Fox, and we have, I think, a very interesting guest joining us today, Bill Uniowski, who is the CEO and co-founder of Zinnia TV. He's a former CPA, and so I'm curious to even dig in a little bit of how do you come from a CPA background, connect with Allison Schreier, if I'm pronouncing her name correctly, and a couple of other teammates, and form Zinnia. So maybe, Bill, as a way of getting started, if you could just introduce yourself and share a little bit more about your company.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to talk. And it has been a very long time since I was introduced as a CPA. So, yeah, so my background is kind of varied. I started my career sort of in the finance and banking and accounting world, living in New York and London, and then came back to Chicago, where I'm from, and started working in smaller, more entrepreneurial startup environments in technology and in media. And about 7 years ago, I was introduced through a colleague of mine to Allison. And Allison at the time was caring for her husband, Evan, who was diagnosed with frontotemporal dementia. And she was trying to find meaningful ways of engaging with him. And so that took the form of magazines where they would sit there and flip through and look at pictures and talk and use that as a jumping off point for conversation, things that Evan liked and in his background. But then she wanted some more. And so she started showing videos on her phone and figuring out this actually works really well. It's engaging to him. It works at his pace. But how do I expand this? How do I go from the photos on my phone to videos of things like hiking and mountain biking that he loves? And how do we spend that meaningful time together? So that was the genesis of Zinnia. And also it comes as a response to her going to visit him in long-term care communities and seeing his wheelchair pushed up against a TV, watching something he never would have chosen to watch. And she's seeing him kind of get distressed and frustrated by that. And so all this stuff together had been brewing in Allison's head. And she started reaching out to people who might be able to help her. And I got connected to her through another friend, and I met her and was struck by how someone in her situation was so solutions oriented, and wanted to kind of find joy in the moment of, beyond a diagnosis and thrive beyond that. And so, just joined up with her and said, I'm in. And I had two grandparents who had dementia. So the concept of that, weighed on my heart, and I know that how difficult it can be. And so to have the opportunity to get involved was really, really exciting. So it was a passion project that we worked on the side for 4 years. We all had day jobs. A small team of us would meet every day, like every Friday, and everyone would be working on their own little work streams. And over time, we created a content library. We tested it with people that Allison knew, members of her support group, and others. And then the first breakthrough was when we were able to get some research funding and work with the University of British Columbia and Vancouver General Hospital in order to validate and test these videos in long-term care and in hospital settings. And that resulted in published papers that talked about the effectiveness of Zinnia. And so that's kind of how we strangely got to where we are today. And I guess I should explain what Zinnia is. I've gone into the story. But so Zinnia is a streaming service, just like Netflix or YouTube. It's an app you can access on tablets and connected TVs. And all of the content has been built specifically for people living with dementia. Slow moving, gently paced, to be digestible by and engaging for them. Unlike regular media that moves really quickly and that can be hard to follow. That can be hard to follow fact and fiction and understand that. And so this is gentler paced media, but still very visually vivid, with sound effects in the background across many, many, many different topics, so that as a caregiver, you can find the thing that your person loves and watch it with them and show them things that resonate with who they are.
Yeah, I love it. I love that it's so person-centered, literally designed for that person. I know I had been on your website And I had the pleasure of meeting Allison several years ago at a TIPA conference, and she gave me a demo, and it's her passion shines through, obviously, being in those shoes with caring for her husband. But I also loved one of the videos that I watched talked about too, from a caregiver perspective, that the videos can be so engaging that if your loved one is enthralled in what they're doing, it actually gives that caregiver a little bit of respite time to, whether it's get dinner going, fold a load of laundry, and not feel guilty about doing that. And I just thought I hadn't thought of that, to be honest, until I watched, several of the videos, and I thought, oh, I love that. I just think caregivers need to kind of refill their own cup, so they can take care of their loved ones. So I love it. I just think it's a fabulous concept. And Susie, you look like you're ready to jump in with some comments too.
Yeah. As a culture, I think we have been trained to not put someone in front of a TV. And when I looked at Zinnia TV, the site, the videos, I thought, oh, wow, this is very different. For a number of reasons. Number one, there's actually a guide to help the caregiver or family member with their loved one to know which type of videos are going to be appropriate. If that person loved animals, there's wonderful animal videos. There's videos on a baby, first year of a baby's life, travel videos. And, I could see right away, these are some of the components that make Zinnia TV different. I'm curious, Bill, what the feedback is that you're hearing from the families that are using your program.
Sure. We hear all types of feedback, and we are just filled with so many wonderful stories of people thanking us and telling us how it's given them a glimpse into their loved one back. Someone actually told me, Bill, you've given me my wife back. Because they were able to find something in common that they could watch together, and it worked in a way where the subject and the pacing and the style was able to get through to his wife and light her up, and they were able to watch things together and enjoy it together. That's just, wonderful feedback that we hear. We had someone just the other day tell us that as a caregiver, it calms her down as well. And she was coping with anxiety. And once she got Zinnia and she was using it with her husband, but also watching it herself, she even said, on her Apple Watch, her sleep score is better and her REM sleep is deeper. And like, these are things that we always thought that it could be calming for the caregiver as well, because if you can manage the caregiver's stress, then that's a huge benefit. But we never knew that these little things these stories would pop up. So we're always hearing great feedback. We hear, people appreciate the respite aspect that was brought up. And when we think of respite at Zinnia, we think of it in two ways. One, respite from the person that you're caring for. So that person's engaged and meaningfully watching something that it is good for them. So yes, the caregiver can step away and get something done around the house or just take a breather. But then we also think about the concept of respite with. That is where the two people can be together and do a task together or watch something and just enjoy it. And it's not someone being the caregiver and the care recipient. It's just two people watching a show like they used to always watch a show and enjoying it together. Mm-hmm. And that's another form that of respite, because you're taking a little break from actually being the caregiver in the role. You're just being two people together.
Yeah. I would imagine, have you had comments? My mind goes right to that felt normal. Like, do you have comments like that? That's what I would think of for that caregiver, of that feels normal or pre-diagnosed or something to those of it felt good.
Yeah, always just a lot of comments around, it's great to have this tool. We had so many problems with regular television. And it's a fact that you often will walk into a community, or you'll hear stories of someone living at home watching the news all day, and other things like that. And that's what kind of gives rise to the no television is good television view of dementia. And we sometimes get that when we talk to people about what we do. But then when we show them the videos and we encourage them to think about it through the eyes of the person with dementia watching it, or try it with someone with dementia and see how they react, that's what changes the perspective on TV being bad or good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like anything else, it's a tool. And as a caregiver, you want to have as many tools as possible to do the best you can for yourself and your person. And so this is just, it's another tool, and you don't need special equipment for it. It's an app that works on your TV or a tablet.
I watched your morning video, and I'm curious as to why it's showing morning routines, people brushing their teeth, washing their face, etc. What is the thought behind that?
Sure. So a lot of the types of content that we've built have been via trial and error, or people suggesting or asking for things. And when we were doing research in Canada, we were asked by our researchers, do you think you can build something that shows someone doing something that they might be resistant to doing, as part of a routine, whether it's drinking water, using the bathroom, washing up, showering, getting dressed. Just there's activities of daily living that caregivers and the person with dementia have to do every day. And sometimes people are resistant to doing certain things. You don't want to get in the shower, it's cold, things like that. So could you just build a video that shows people doing the thing and enjoying it and being successful at it? And do you think that could help put someone in a more receptive mindset to doing that thing because they see someone doing it? And so we started building content like that. And the first piece that we built was called Let's Drink Water. And, obviously dehydration can be a problem with people living with dementia. It leads to UTIs and all sorts. And you know this very, very well, given your business. And so we built this Let's Drink Water video. And it shows someone drinking water, and it shows a glass being filled, and you can hear the sound of the water being poured in it. And it just shows people cheersing and drinking and enjoying it. And then we throw in other things to catch people's attention, like a dog drinking water, or a cat drinking water, or a baby, or geese. And all of these things just kind of show people doing it and enjoying it. And, we thought that could work? And when the researchers tested it, they found it was effective. And not only was it effective, but it was even more so when used as part of a routine. And routine's so important, in dementia care. And so we have communities that every day at 11:30 will pour glasses of water, and they'll turn on the Let's Drink Water video, and everybody together will watch it and take sips and cheers each other, and it helps them to drink water. So the idea of that morning sequence that you asked about, Susie, is that we show certain things that people might do in the morning, and it helps them to kind of get accustomed to, okay, I'm watching this, it's the morning, I have these things to do. Okay. Sort of gets people a little bit ready to do those things.
Great idea.
Great idea. Yeah. I'm curious, Bill, do you have, with books, right? You might have your best-selling books per se. Do you have research behind or feedback behind your top 10 videos? And do you find, even digging deeper, do those top 10, is your audience more the mid stage or the late stage? Or I'm just curious how deep the funnel goes into that type of research.
Yeah. What we always say is everybody with dementia is an individual with individual preferences and things like that. And so we've got, our greatest hits are the stuff that you might expect. It's the babies, it's the animals, it's the nature. But we also have things like sewing or mountain biking or, car maintenance and things, because we want to be able to reach people who that's their thing. We hear from people who, from communities, maybe in rural areas, and they say, we've got a bunch of men that, don't love the babies and the animals. What can you have? What do you have for them? What can we make for them? And they had asked us, like, our guys love to hunt. They're really into hunting. What can you do? And I'm like, well, I want to make it dementia friendly. What are we going to do with guns? And we actually made a hunting safety quiz. And it shows pictures of hunting scenes and it asks questions. So, what do you wear out hunting? Do you wear camouflage? Do you wear green? Do you wear bright orange? And why do you, and all of that. And so, there are certainly the tried and true things that people find that are broadly appealing to people. But part of what the magic in Zinnia is having a broad array of topics, so that if you have someone that you're trying to figure out, how do I connect with this person? What do I know about their background? Can we try this video or that video? We give people options. Yeah. Another great example is we have an American literature video. And I wasn't sure how well that would, go over. But then we heard a story from a community in Northern California where there was a man in the back of the room and he wasn't participating in the activity. And up front, they were doing the American literature video, asking questions about various art, authors. And all of a sudden they hear this guy in the back yelling out, Edgar Allan Poe, Mark Twain.
Wow.
The staff had never heard him speak before. They thought he was nonverbal. And he went on to participate and answer all the questions right. And it turns out he was a writer for the Los Angeles Times. And clearly books were his thing. So you just never know. And like the caregivers that I admire the most are the ones who really go that extra mile to find out about that person and figure out how they might be able to engage with them and give them something that reflects, who they are and what they want to see.
Yeah. So the issue wasn't him being nonverbal. The issue was he was bored.
Yeah, they just the team had never found anything that had worked, and I think they had sort of written him off a little bit, and so it was actually, they were all overjoyed when this happened, because now they knew, okay, there's a reason why, like, there's things we can do with him. That's great, because caregivers want to have that positive affirmation of the work that they're doing and see, the light in someone's eye and a smile, and Zinnia is a way that, like I said, it's a tool, that it's one of the things that they could use to try and make that happen.
Wow. Do you, I'm curious, this is just random question. I'm sure a lot more about dementia than I, but I know certain colors, right, increase appetite. Is there research that has been done or being done or considered being done where videos related, you mentioned the routines of brushing the teeth and different things, anything tied around appetite?
I don't have any direct research to attribute to that, but anecdotally, we hear from people who use our Let's Eat Breakfast video. And they'll have it on in their dining room or in the kitchen where they're eating, and it'll show eggs and chickens and sausages at the market, and it'll show people cooking and squeezing orange juice and making coffee and all of the things that go along with it, and it makes the food look appealing. And so I can't point to, hey, this video made people, research-backed ways to eat more, but anecdotally, we do find that, this helps get people more in the mood to do that thing. The same thing happens with exercise. If people are going through an exercise related thing, if they're watching something that they enjoy while they do it, we've heard that people are more likely to stay on that bike longer.
Yeah. It all makes sense. I think, just personally, I know sometimes my husband and I have great difficulty finding something on television these days that's non-violent, appealing. It becomes difficult type of thing. And I even think the limited videos that I watched, through Allison's demo years ago, but also on your website, were quite appealing. And just the baby one, like you mentioned, I saw the water one. There was one on pets, like you mentioned, the mountains. And it's, I think they just recently came out with some new television set that while it's not on your wall, it turns into a picture. And you just think general public of peace. I think our world needs more peace. And that's what I think of when I watch the videos. It's the slower, it's breathe, relax, enjoy, type of thing. So I don't know. I think your model could go outside the dementia circuit and do a lot of people a lot of good.
Well, thank you. And, we've received inquiries from some other areas to use this, adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities, children along the autism spectrum, things like that. And everyone is welcome to use it. We just, how our personal expertise as a company and as with Allison and the research we've done is in the dementia realm. So I think there are other places it can go, but that's where we're focused today. But like you say, you find it relaxing. We have the caregivers tell us that they find it relaxing. We've had people say, I really like these Zinnia videos. Does that mean I have dementia? Like, yeah. We've had people tell us that when their loved one passes, they're still going to keep Zinnia because they enjoy it. And the question has always been, is Zinnia made for mid to late stage? What is the right stage of dementia? And we always say that, if someone is happy with the things that they're watching, if my grandmother would watch The Sound of Music and be perfectly happy, then let's watch The Sound of Music. But monitor what they're watching and when that might change and when it might become a problem as things progress. We had a panel that Allison was on with people with the early stage of dementia, and she asked them, "What do you watch on TV?" And one of them person raised their hand and said, "I actually don't watch TV because it makes me anxious. If it's on in a room that I come in, I turn it off." And everyone except for one person on the panel agreed. And these were people who, were still at the stage where they can get on, participate in a panel and talk in that way. And so that means even at the early stage, TV was becoming problematic. So it's all individual, but there's no Zinnia is just right for this stage. It can depend.
Yeah, I could see for lots of people. In fact, I was watching it thinking of my granddaughter. And I thought, oh, wow. I mean, just watching the undersea creatures and the Hawaiian breeze video, I thought the visuals were amazing. The music was fun. It was very soothing. It made me wonder what caused you to determine the length of videos.
So most of our videos are between 8 to 10 minutes long. And part of that reason was we don't advocate for people sitting in front of the TV for a long period of time. And so we want to keep them sort of short and episodic so people stay focused on it and interested in it. And we know that oftentimes Zinnia will be playing in a common area of a senior living community. And so we don't want someone who happens to be there to have to watch 45 minutes of dogs if they're a cat person. So, we keep them short and digestible so that there's variety.
Yeah. Great. Do you work, what just came to mind, Bill, we work with long-term care communities, but we also work with adult day centers that seem to be growing across the country. And I know I've toured several of them, and I've noticed that many of them, probably not all, but many have, especially the adult day that work with people with memory loss and neurocognitive decline, they sometimes have a separate room. So if someone comes to that center and they're having a challenging day or a challenging moment in time, they guide that member into a quiet room and I remember for me on the tour, it smelt good. It had calm music. They had big reclining chairs. And it was just, I get it. It's let's just calm. Do you work with any adult day centers where I can envision Zinnia as a way to let's reset and de-escalate that particular, person, hopefully at the time, and maybe a caregiver too, a break room in there could be nice.
Yes. We do work in adult day centers. And just as an aside, I really like that model, because there's so many people who are caring for a loved one at home. They're juggling work, they're juggling other responsibilities. So to have a place to bring that person for a few hours of the day is a great thing, and have meaningful engagement and programming and everything. And, I've talked to people who are in the adult day world, and they said, that person looks forward to going there. They feel like that's, some people go to school, some people go to work. They're like, I'm going to the day club. And it gives them a community and everything. So all of it, I really support, and I hope to see it grow as it is growing. Definitely, like having a quiet room is something we see. Some adult days have like a little cinema room, and it's a dark room. Maybe they'll have movies or things like that, but they'll have Zinnia running all the time. And so if people need a break from the activity of the center, it's a good place to go. Even in senior living, there's a Brookdale in Tempe, Arizona that uses us in their kind of quiet rooms. And there's one on each wing, and it's just a quiet room for the same reason. And Zinnia is running, and people will walk in there and spend some time there. Families might go in there when they come to visit. And it's just a peaceful experience. Similarly, when we were doing testing in Vancouver General Hospital, they actually converted one room into sort of a Zinnia room where they had a projector on the ceiling, and they would show it full screen on walls and have a couple of walls going. So it was kind of immersive. And that goes closer to what you were talking about with that sensory room, right? Like there's the immersion visually, and then you hear music, and maybe you smell something, and maybe there's a breeze from a fan. And, you can create all sorts of environments like that. It's like, hey, let's go to the forest today, or the beach, and have sand and things like that. So I'm familiar with some people that we're helping to build sort of sensory rooms like that with Zinnia as one of the components.
Yeah, you're triggering another thought. So I have to say, one of these quiet rooms that I went to, it's an adult day chain you may have heard of, town centers that tied somehow, or used to be anyway, I don't want to misspeak with senior helpers, but town centers. They had one of these quiet rooms that was really, it was beautiful and just felt good. But to your point of people loving to go there, the director, when I went for a tour, this was years ago, and I believe it was in New Jersey, true story, they shared with me that they had 3 gentlemen that came at the same time. They were give or take the same age, because their concept is they change it out every so many years, but it goes back into time where the mind works like that. But they would come, and I think every town center has an old model car, some type of old model car. And these 3 gentlemen, it became their thing, and God love them, I hope they're still doing it today. They would come and they would get in that car, and they had their driver, and they spent time. And I'm thinking, oh, wouldn't that be cool? Like the old, I'm going to date myself here, the old drive-in movies. You could have the speaker coming in, and on comes Zinnia for those people. That would be, my mind's going in a million places, Bill. You can do this, and you can do this, and you.
And that's what I love, is when people get creative with how they use Zinnia and what they do it for, and the questions or the suggestions they make to us. We've started to make more content specific to senior living activities, which would work in adult day activities as well. So the activity director has a calendar, and there's all sorts of things. So someone could look at the calendar and say, okay, it's St. Patrick's Day. I wonder if Zinnia has Irish videos. We do. So like bring them on, and show them beforehand, or in the background when you're doing your craft, or afterwards. There's lots of creative ways to take our content and put them into place. But then we've also realized that we should make it easier for senior living. So that, we started making quiz content, which are easy activities to facilitate. We've also created a very common use in senior living activities, daily chronicles. So they talk about what happened in history today. So we've created a today in history video for every day of the year. And so communities will turn it on and facilitate it with everyone, and they'll hear about the different facts. And then the powerful button on Zinnia isn't the play button, it's the pause button, because that's when you stop and you talk to your residents, you ask them questions, and you create conversation based on what you just saw. So if there's a fact about basketball and, Wilt Chamberlain scoring 100 points, and someone lights up, you can hit pause, like, who's a basketball fan here? And then you can go off on a total tangent. Who's your favorite team? Have you been to a game? What games do you like? And so on. And so it's really a jumping off point. You can be used as creatively as possible.
Yeah, that's wonderful. That is wonderful. So where do you see, I'm just curious with your research and with your company being in business for several years, and we know that the demographic, unfortunately, is continuing to grow. Do you see more tools and resources on the marketplace and accessibility or financing being an issue to them, or do you see that opening up more? Like, I'm just curious for trends that you might see in that space.
Sure. I think we've been doing this for about 6 years, 7 years now, and we've definitely seen more things out and available since over that time in the technology space and the tools space. Like age tech is a word now. And AARP has a group called the Age Tech Collaborative from AARP, and they bring together innovators and enterprises and, test beds and researchers all together to create an ecosystem to help foster this. And at CES, the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas, big deal every year, one of the largest exhibitors is AARP's Age Tech Collaborative, because they bring technologies like us and others and introduce them to the show and people. And I think there's a more, as the demographics are changing, like you say, I think more people are facing various issues around aging or caregiving. And so they're more aware of the need and how pervasive it is now. And so I think there's people searching for tools. And then there are people who are taking their personal experiencing and turning it into a tool, like Allison did with Zinnia. There's so many people who are touched by various diseases or conditions around aging who want to make a difference. And so they say some things could be better, should be better, I'll make it. And so we see a lot of that as well. So overall, I think it's a positive thing for everyone. The other thing that I'm seeing a lot more of is within the mainstream media, coverage on aging issues and caring issues and dementia and what it means and things like that. And so all of that is a really positive move, I think, for the industry and for people who are trying to create solutions and for people who are the recipients of those tools.
Yeah. And I think your Zinnia to me is bigger picture. It's enjoyment, it's engagement, but it has elements too. I would even think of teaching caregivers empathy, which I think we know that I call it a caregiver shortage, staffing crisis, burnout. I mean, we could go round robin, and unfortunately, I don't see that going away anytime soon. So I think your tool not only helps the residents, but going back to the caregivers too, whether it's in the home or in the communities, though, to me, it serves as an educational tool for the caregivers. And that to me is going to be the name of the game from a community ownership of education is going to be the differentiator. That phrase is coming up more and more and more. And I think you've got a lot of arms to your offering, which is wonderful. So kudos.
Thank you. We do even have dementia educational content on there. So in addition to being the family care partner, Allison worked for years for the state of Washington, teaching courses on dementia and mental health in long-term care communities. So they were mandated by the state that they take these courses, and she was in there teaching them. And then she spent time working for the University of Washington's Memory and Brain Wellness Center, managing an educational program focused on educating primary care physicians about dementia who don't see it very often. So based on that educational side of things, we've created an entire channel of videos that are short and digestible and help caregivers understand what they might be facing. So it could be about coping with repetition or sundowning or hallucinations, various things. And they're short and they're digestible, and they give them a little bit of background on what it is that's happening and potential ways to help make that easier. And we built it originally for family caregivers who use the Zinnia platform, but we found even in senior living and adult day, it's something that teams like to use as a quick refresher at a meeting. Like, let's watch this quick video and talk about it. Another thing that is really important education-wise for us is supporting caregivers. And so every month we have a caregiver support webinar where we'll either have a topic that Allison discusses or we'll bring a guest in. And then it sort of becomes a little bit of a support group. People will share and ask questions, and other caregivers will pitch in and help suggest answers. And it's become a really nice community. And like, that's, it's separate from the Zinnia product that we build and sell and everything like that. But it's really part of an overall desire for us to just support caregiving and caregivers.
Well, I just want to applaud you, Bill, and your team for creating solutions like this that are bringing, I think, calm and comfort to the hearts and minds of a lot of people. So thank you for doing that.
Well, thank you. It's been a real pleasure to work on this, and it's very satisfying to hear the stories from people and to know that this thing that you're working on is actually helping people out in the world.
Yeah. And please say hi to Allison. I mean, what a wonderful honor to her husband and legacy of Allison to be served up a big bowl of lemons and be able to turn it into really making batches of lemonade that ripples out and just goes on and on and on, and the ripple effects to help others. I mean, that's I get chills thinking of her and thinking of that and you and your other co-founders. I mean, good stuff, good people doing good things. I think that's, we need more of that. That's awesome.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. And you guys are doing really important work too. Like, there's so many pieces of the puzzle that all of them are necessary, and everyone's got their specialization and a key issue that needs to be helped and solved and managed. So yeah, it's a real community. It's a real team effort for everyone.
I agree. Well, thank you for being our guest here. How do people reach you, Bill?
Sure. So the website for Zinnia is zinniatv.com, ZINNIA. And my email is bill@zinniatv.com. And I'd love to hear from anyone who's interested in learning more about us.
Awesome. Susie, any final thoughts?
I'm amazed. I didn't know what to expect. And when I jumped on your site and watched the videos, I was super impressed. And thank you for putting that together.
Well, thank you for hosting and helping us to spread the word about Zinnia.